Welcome to the Do Good X podcast, a sanctuary from the entrepreneurial grind. Hosts Kimberly Danielle and Stephen Lewis, advocates for impactful entrepreneurship, guide you on the path where purpose meets business. Join us to slow down, reconnect, and explore the challenges of under-resourced entrepreneurs, uncovering the unique journey of building businesses that make a difference. Now, your host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Do Good X podcast. My name is Kimberly Danielle and I am a community builder, a coach, and a communication strategist who comes from generations of faith-driven entrepreneurs and leaders who believe that our purpose should drive us to contribute to the common good. I am happy to be here with you today and excited to be here with you, Stephen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. And I just want to say that I am a catalyst for positive change in communities and businesses. And for over 2 decades, I've inspired leaders and entrepreneurs to live and work on purpose with intention, faith, and a commitment to their well-being. And Kimberly, I'm excited to get into this podcast today because we particularly have a special guest, a Do Good X mentor, cheerleader, circle of advisor, none other than Elaine Robinson Beattie. She is the CEO of Women of Vision Leadership Institute, which is a professional development and leadership company supporting executive women of color in an inspiring or to a C-suite position who are on the cusp of disrupting embedded systems of injustice in ministry and the marketplace. She is an international speaker, a leadership coach, and a strategist with more than 30 years of experience. Elaine teaches the importance of management training and development leadership skills in the marketplace and for faith-based organizations. She is the co-host of Lead Her Talks, a podcast created for women in leadership where she and her co-hosts share lessons learned from their past workplace experiences in their respective workplaces. And she also is a published author working on her soon-to-be-released book, Sis, You Earned It, A Guide to Leading a Maverick with Grace. Elaine Beattie graduated from Simmons College with a bachelor's degree in business administration. She is also has an earned master's in management and leadership from Montreat College with a master's in religious leadership from Candler School of Theology at Emory University. Elaine is married to the Reverend Dr. Charles M. Beattie II, a United Methodist pastor and an international blues artist. And they live in Atlanta, Georgia with their beloved dog, Miss Ella Fitzgerald Robinson Beattie. Elaine, it is so good to be with you.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
So let us jump in. You've had a successful career as a senior executive, roles at several Fortune 500 companies. What motivated you to leave your corporate career and become a coach? And was it a gradual decision or was it a sudden realization?
Thank you for the question. It was actually 2 things. So, as you know, I love mentorship. I've had mentors and I've been a mentor. Well, my mentor calls me from her hospital bed, unbeknownst to me, and says, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm okay. And I'm saying, you're not okay because I can hear it. And so I said, what happened? And she says, well, I just had a quadruple bypass. And I thought, oh my God, I am not going out like this. And in addition to Marcia, there were several people, they were getting divorced. They were, going into the hospital. All these things were happening to people. I'm thinking, I'm not going out like this, right? So I started making this shift. I had a coach and I was talking to her about coaching. And then one day, and this was the final straw, I was on my way to work and I was pulling into the garage and literally I had my Bible on the seat and I could hear this little small voice say, open your Bible. And I'm thinking like, well, to where? And you all might know this scripture. That scripture says, come out from among them. And I'm like, oh my God, what are you saying? Anyway, so I went to a few of my friends, colleagues who knew the word well, and they said, you know exactly what that means. And so before I even thought about it anymore, I walked into my boss's office. I showed him the scripture, and he says, okay. So that's how I ended up leaving.
Wow. So, Elaine, let me ask you just a follow-up question. You coach and work with entrepreneurs and executives of all types of leaders. And so what challenges and opportunities have you experienced in developing your business, especially coaching and leadership development?
Well, as I said, Stephen, I made the switch from being in the hotel business for several years to being, as you know, an entrepreneur. Well, when I did that, I also moved from Miami to Asheville, North Carolina. And I did not think like, oh, you're going to a new community where they don't know you. And I walked in, blazing in, on fire. Okay, let's get this party started. And they did not know me. They didn't care that they didn't care who I thought I was. So it was really, really shocking to me that I just could not hit the ground running. If you've ever been in a smaller community like Asheville, quite frankly, they really are the type of people, lovely people, wonderful people, generous people, but they are really pretty close to outsiders. And so I really had to work my way in for years to get them to trust me, know me, and work with me. So moving to a new community without bringing your business was a major, not bringing my business, but I say that to other people. When you move, bring your business with you.
So even thereafter, I'm curious, what is one or two other challenges or opportunities that you have faced as an entrepreneur, specifically around leadership development and coaching since that time in Asheville?
Well, people need to know you. They need to know who you are, and they need to know what you've done. And you can have all the write-ups, you can have, and that it's helpful, right, to have people to speak on your behalf, meaning testimonials, things like that. But you really have to get to know people. And so I did a lot of volunteering. I showed up in the community. The opportunity was really to work alongside people, and that's what I did. And I actually even ended up taking a job as a full-time executive director of a nonprofit, again, led by the Lord. But it was an opportunity for me to meet more people in the city. And I got the opportunity to interact with CEOs and COOs. And so that put me in a category that allowed me to really then be able to showcase my skills as far as speaking and coaching and things like that. So people need to know you. That is the biggest opportunity and the biggest challenge. And I think the way to do that is really through volunteering and working alongside people.
So what we recognize, Stephen and I recognize, we talked about this on another episode, is that not all entrepreneurs are actually good leaders. And given your work, what are the key qualities of a successful entrepreneurial leader specifically? And how can these leaders build strong teams and lead effectively?
Yeah, I think about that often. And when I see leaders who are natural, and I do believe natural leaders can be born and they can be made. It starts with, I believe, vision, right? Leaders must have vision. That's what makes a great leader. And then you add on tenacity, and then you add on the ability to be able to work with other people. I really believe great leaders understand the value of diversity. I believe that they understand and really have a great sense of emotional intelligence. I also believe that they understand the power of collaboration and, if you would, joint ventures, those kinds of things. So that's what I've seen in good leaders, and also the ability to be able to delegate and to work effectively and efficiently. We used to, and I used to always teach this, right, to manage your time. It's important to manage our time. But I recently have been coached, and now I really think of it as really managing my energy and making sure I'm making good use of my time.
Yeah, that is. I wonder, as you think about managing your time and your energy, how do you then extend that out to a team? And what I'm really thinking about is like, how can entrepreneurs build strong teams, manage their time, and to really lead effectively, to do all the things that the business really needs, particularly in different stages of the entrepreneurial journey?
I think the most important thing is to make sure that the people that you're hiring or working with, one, understand the vision, that they see the vision, and that they're ready to work alongside you with the vision. That's the first thing. Secondly, I really believe that you need to have shared values. If they're not people that are going to support your vision and your values, then it's almost like a lost game already. But those two things will get you far. I always believe you can train people for skill, but you cannot train people for attitude. Visionaries are visionaries. The greatest difference is when people are differing on values. So if you have those three things, right, an initiative, people need to show initiative. But if you have shared values, if you have shared vision, and people understand their capabilities, right? They know what their superpowers are and are willing to share them generously, then I think that's the start of a good team, of a good leadership team. And then those who really believe in continued learning, right? We all have to be continued learners, in my opinion. And so as we're working together, we, as John Maxwell says, we fail forward, right? We learn from our mistakes, we give each other feedback, and then we just keep going, right? We just keep going. But I think having a diverse team is important in leadership. I think it's important that we really build a bond of trust. And the only way we do that is with time.
So when you work with entrepreneurs, I know you work with executives, and you've also worked with entrepreneurs. What are the common challenges or pain points that they are wrestling with?
Making good use of time, Unfortunately, as entrepreneurs, we start out and, we do everything. And then we become successful and we still try to do everything. And that's where we have to realize that bringing on someone who can do the tasks that, I don't want to say lower level, but the tasks that would cost us a lot of money, right? For instance, it's not a good use of my time to be doing research. First of all, I don't like it, but it's better to find somebody who loves doing research. I'm talking about for speaking engagements, and can fill out the profiles and put together a draft of proposal. That's a good use of someone else's time. It's not a good use of my time. Better use of my time is thinking up new programs, thinking up new talks to be sharing with the world, right? Spending time reading and building my skills. So we have to figure out what's a good use of our time. And entrepreneurs always end up getting down in the weeds and forgetting that we must be mindful. I always tell people the difference between me and Oprah is how she spends her time, right? So we got to think about that, right? How do we spend our time?
Well, it's interesting as you talk about time, because also you think about kind of work-life balance. And some would say that, work-life balance is a farce. And others would say, well, you figure out like, how do you live in harmony with the demands of your personal life and your professional life? I say all that to say is that a lot of people struggle with work-life balance. They struggle to find harmony between their work life, their personal life, and all the things that, pull on them in terms of those demands. So what strategies do you recommend to help entrepreneurs effectively manage their time, take care of their self in order to avoid burnout?
Great question. And again, this is actually part of the foundation of my method in coaching, and that is planning. Planning is essential. And I mean planning everything. For me, quickly, my day starts with prayer, right? I get on a prayer line and then I end up working out or going to the gym. I come back, then I get ready, I do my self-care, breakfast, get food ready, maybe for the rest of the day. And then I start working with my clients. So I spend the first part of the morning in self-care, and then I'm ready to work, right? Having food available, pre-planning and setting up. Sundays is my setup day, right? So I try to make sure I've got clothes washed and folded and all the things that I need to do in order to have a really good week. So planning, preparation, accountability is very important. I have an accountability partner. In fact, I have a couple of them. In addition to two coaches, right? So I have a lot of people holding me accountable because it's so easy to get off track. So having people who are cheering you on, having people who are going to hold you accountable lovingly, gracefully, making sure that we're planning and making sure that we are literally scheduling. And I mean scheduling like date night, scheduling when do we pray, when are we reading, just time to sleep and nap. Saturdays is my Sabbath. People know, my husband knows, I stay in my pajamas if I can. I don't cook. I tell people it's like I'm Jewish, right? Like Friday, sundown, forget it. It's all over. It is all over for me. That's the rhythm my body has been on for years. That's what I used to, when I was in the hotel business. We worked real hard from Sunday to Friday. And then Saturday was my day off and recovery. And it still is 30 years later. So Sabbath is a very important part of establishing a rhythm. And I don't say balance, I say rhythm. It's more about a rhythm of life, because we all know sometimes we're really, really busy and sometimes we're not. And so we have to account for that.
That's really good. And for you to be able to stay with a practice like that for 30 years is commendable.
My body's used to it. It just does that. So I've learned to lean into it. Not always, but I've now learned to lean into it.
That's great. Well, we're going to pivot and we're going to actually move to our next segment. Here, we will hear insights from entrepreneurs and seasoned guides about the impact that mentorship can have. So Elaine has served as a mentor for Do Good X Startup Accelerator and is an incredible source of wisdom and a guide for entrepreneurs who are committed to building and scaling their businesses. So Elaine, we'd like to ask you a few questions related to that. And so I'll invite Kimberly to get us started.
Elaine, how is coaching different from mentorship? And when would an entrepreneur benefit from having a coach?
Coaching is best when you are working toward a particular thing. For instance, setting up a business or wanting to be promoted, moving up the ranks. Mentoring, I believe, is important when we are trying to get nuanced, when we are working on let's say in my career, right? I knew I wanted to be a general manager. So I sought out a general manager, someone who's experienced. So a mentor is usually experienced, usually in the field that we are in, and they will guide you through, right? Without pay, usually, just because they really believe in who you are and want to see you successful. So a coach is someone you usually pay to have a particular result. Mentors will walk with you, usually for a long period of time, to make sure that you are getting all the different aspects that you're seeking in the goal that you're working toward.
So since a mentor may walk with you for a long period of time, what are the key qualities that an entrepreneur should look for in a mentor?
Well, first of all, are they mentoring, right? We can't ask someone to mentor us unless they really are already mentoring and they really love mentoring and feel called to mentor. That's the first thing. I also believe that mentors need to have availability. They need to make themselves available. I also believe that mentors need to see the value in the mentee, right? So it's not just the mentor speaking into their life, right? I learned this phrase actually from Dr. Rhodes, working with the Rise Together Network, Ministry of Women Ministers. And we talk about it being a circular relationship. And I love that, right? So it's a give and take, it's a sharing, it's an equal sharing, recognizing that the mentor does come with experience and knowledge and those things that the mentee is seeking. But the mentor can also learn, and that's happened for me.
So your mentees have often had a lasting connection with you even after the accelerator program. I want to hear what factors contribute to a successful mentoring relationship and what should the mentee bring to the relationship?
Thank you. I have always seen my mentees as whole people, and I want to see them succeed at the thing that we're working on. But like entrepreneurship, leadership, you cannot just coach or mentor a person on that thing. You've got to have insights into their lives. And it just so happens that I have had wonderful mentees where we have shared, if you would, concerns about particularly women of color. So we've had shared interests, we've had shared passions, we enjoy one another, we laugh, and I have been able to be there for them in tough times. They also bring great gifts, and I recognize those and have not been afraid to ask them about, their gifts, their talents, and how they do things. And so it just started naturally where it became a give and take. And then I just wasn't ready to let go, and neither were they. And I have enjoyed the relationships after the program with them and still do.
Well, if you are tuning in and enjoying this conversation that we are having with Elaine, learning more about coaching, mentorship, and ways that you can better move and navigate this journey as an entrepreneur, you can go to dogetx.org for more resources and tips and tools for your journey. Join a LinkedIn community to navigate that journey and have a community support along the way. And if you feel so led and you are enjoying this, please also leave us a review. And you don't have to, just remember that we are in this with you and you don't have to do this journey alone. Now we are going to shift to our next segment, Off the Cuff. And here we have a series of questions that we have not provided Elaine, that we invite you, Elaine, to just answer and respond to with the first thing that comes to mind. So the first question is, what do you do to navigate roadblocks and build your confidence?
I do a lot of praying. I do a lot of praying, but I really have a circle of friends who have different skill sets, and I call upon them. I am not afraid to ask for help.
What's the best advice that you have received on your entrepreneurial journey?
To have a circle of people that I can lean on. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs will usually end up like becoming a solopreneur, and they forget like there's people out there that can really help them. And I realized that was happening for me. So that's why I ended up joining a mastermind and getting back in community, because it's so easy to get focused on our businesses. So you cannot do entrepreneurship alone. You cannot. You need people around you. and a diverse group of people.
And for those who do not know what a mastermind is, just say briefly what that is.
So a mastermind is a group of people who are all working toward a particular thing. For instance, I'm in a mastermind of storytellers. So we're all perfecting our skills as storytellers, but we all have different businesses. Some of us are counselors, some of us are coaches, speakers, tech people, but we are committed to helping one another succeed. So we cheer each other on, we hold each other accountable, and we work through and share business strategies together.
What is one daily, weekly, or monthly practice that sets you up for success as an entrepreneur?
Getting sleep. I know that sounds
That's
really
important.
simple.
It's very important.
It is so important. It is so important. When I do not get enough sleep, I am cranky. I can't think. My mind is fuzzy. But if I get a good night's sleep, man, I am up and ready to go. So I cannot say enough about getting enough sleep.
Well, how much of your success do you attribute to your faith versus your own grit, your will, or your hustle?
Great question. And that is when my life really changed. When I was in the hotel business, you talking about grit, I was all up in it. Me, Elaine, myself, right? I was doing everything I could because I believed the lie. I believe like you go out there, you get a good education, you do your job, and you'll get hired and you'll move up the ranks. Well, I did that and I got burnt out along the way. And then I literally started praying and I then really started pressing into my faith. And that's when everything shifted. When I invited the Lord into my life, when I started literally reading the Bible and listening and letting the Lord lead me, life got a lot easier. So I am a big proponent for bringing God to work with us.
Complete this sentence. Because of my entrepreneurial endeavors, communities will be or are more able to
connect. Connection is so important for all kinds of reasons. One, we just need people. We need people. I love connecting women to women. I love connecting entrepreneurs. Oftentimes I realize that I have resources and they're not for me. So being able to get people together where they realize that they have resources, that they may not be for themselves, and they can share resources, or getting people to recognize that they are a resource. But connection is important for life, for living, for our businesses. Connection.
Well, Elaine, we'll have to leave it there. And I want to say thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us on this podcast and just to share just a few bit of wisdom and deep insight that you bring to the entrepreneurial journey.
And thank you for your continued support of Do Get X and serving as a mentor and also showing up today for this conversation.
You are most welcome, and thank you for having me. It's been such a blessing to be part of this community, and I just enjoy serving. And as I said, as a mentor and being part of this community, I give, but I also have been blessed in receiving. So thank you.
Hey, everyone. So, Stephen, this is our first year doing this podcast, first experience as a host or co-host. We've both been on podcasts before as guests, but just want to share with the listeners what our favorite parts of hosting the Do Get X podcast have been thus far. You want to get us started, or you want me to go first?
Sure. So I will share with the listeners. My favorite part are the bloopers. The bloopers. Do you hear me? Like, you all will not believe what goes on behind the scenes. But no, seriously. My favorite part about the podcast is really talking to really wonderful people, entrepreneurs who are doing really great work out in the world, and our ability to be able to curate that information, to be able to curate their insights, and hopefully make it available to aspiring entrepreneurs and those who are trying to figure out different pieces within their own business. And so that's really exciting for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree with that. I really enjoy talking to a good mix of entrepreneurs, investors, entrepreneurs who are early in the game, entrepreneurs who are later stage, and really getting those different perspectives on what the journey looks like from how they have approached entrepreneurship or where they are situated in the field. And I think that's been really wonderful. I would also say, really being able to, like you said, curate some insights and perspectives that in resources, because we've had tons of guests come on here and just like list a whole bunch of resources that can really be instructive for entrepreneurs, but curating that space, like you said, for those resources, particularly for you all who are tuning in, who are aspiring, or maybe, you're just trying to figure some things out in your business and you haven't really found the right resource yet, but you hear something that's inspiring or you want to look into from the podcast. That's been wonderful. And then I would also say, hearing from people that they tuned into the podcast, it's our hope. It's my hope that people will listen to the podcast, but to actually be out in the world or to chat with somebody virtually for the first time and talking a little bit about Do Good X or our work. And they're like, oh yeah, I listened to the podcast and, I really love this, or I found some good resources or great insights, or I know the person that you interviewed, that kind of thing. And so it's fun to always be able to, it's fun, surprising, and it makes me proud that we're actually providing something that is helpful and of value to someone. And even if it's just one person per episode, that someone is a someone.
That's right. I think this is an important medium, particularly as we move forward into the future. It allows people to listen on their own time and different formats. And they can do it while they are cooking dinner or making lunch or driving in the car and that type of thing. And so I think, experimenting with this medium and being able to kind of co-host the way in which we can continue to learn and curate the kind of resources and insights and hopefully helpful conversations will build a stronger ecosystem of people who are benefiting from those who come before them, that they don't have to make the same mistakes, or they can accelerate the opportunity that's before them because they have a little bit more access to information that they otherwise wouldn't be able to have. So I really enjoy the podcast and what it's able to do in that regards.
The last thing I'll say that relates to the first thing you said with bloopers, it's great to just not take ourselves so seriously sometimes and to laugh. And we have had some bloopers for sure that you may or may not hear or see
That's right.
in the future. But I think it's also, it just reflects the fact that it's important to have fun in doing what we're doing, whether it's this podcast, whether you're out there building a business, whether you are out there supporting entrepreneurs in any way. Of course, there's some aspects of business that do require us to be serious, but it's important to be playful too, and to laugh and to find joy in what we're doing. So I hope you continue to enjoy tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us next time. Until then, be well and do good.
Thank you for listening to the Do Good X podcast. To continue the conversation or access our resources, visit www.dogoodx.org. Join us again for conversations that will nourish your soul, ignite your dreams, and empower you to build an impactful business, one intentional step at a time. Until then, keep striving, thriving, and doing good.